Welcome to Bizruptions, a video podcast where we talk about the ish that happens along the road to business success and how to keep pushing through it. And now, from the Yokel Local Studios in lovely Las Vegas, with your Think Out of the Box hosts, Stormie Andrews and DeBorah Fortune Stott.
Hey, we're starting another show. We got a great guest today. At least two of us are great. We'll leave DeBorah out of that equation, but we'll see how this plays out.
Here we go, as usual, Stormie.
As usual.
So you probably don't know this. Our guest doesn't know what a hater you are, so I think we should start him nice. Okay, let's start off nice.
Let's do that.
So I am really excited about our guest because I met this gentleman in a seminar that he was performing, that he was one of the speakers of. Actually, it was your seminar and your business partner.
That's right.
And I was just blown away. And this was years ago. And I remembered him, but of course, he did not remember me, which is kind of hard to believe because I'm so memorable. So I met him, and I had always said, you know what? I need to have a talk with him. I need to sit down and have a conversation. So today we have the wonderful pleasure of having Beejel on our podcast. And this is, like I said, this is so exciting because I've seen the stuff that you guys have done, and I know how you help businesses. And with this being a business podcast, I am super excited about what you have to share with our guest today.
And I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Beejel. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us.
Absolutely. So with that being said, let's dive into it. Beejel, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Well, I've been in the outsourcing business for about 10 years.
Okay.
So prior to that, I was an entrepreneur. And like a lot of entrepreneurs had a lot of ups and downs. I think we can all probably relate to some aspect of that story. You know, you jump into it because you get sold into the concept of, hey, start a business and work less and enjoy more. And the reality is it doesn't always work like that. Not like the headline always sells you.
Right.
And so it takes a lot of time to kind of figure that out. But along the way, we had some challenges, not just in business, but in terms of immigration too. So we had to deal with some of those challenges, and it was actually thanks to one of those challenges of actually having to leave the country that really taught me a lot about the power of processes in business. Because one of the things I had to do was not just travel with my family, but also keep making the business move along while we were traveling.
Wow.
And the only way to really do that is to make sure you have systems and processes and the right people in place to help you achieve that. And so in 2010, we had to leave the country. And myself, my wife, my 2 kids, 3 laptops.
Gotta take those laptops.
And instead of going back to the UK, which is where I'm from, we decided to basically go to India and travel. And we didn't know how long we were going to be away. We just knew that we had to leave the country. And we started off with just kind of traveling around India. We finally found a base in Bangalore, India. And from there, we would travel into the Far East. And a lot of times, I'll be doing client calls from the beaches in India, from forests, from the banks of holy rivers in temples, and I'll be able to kind of log into my laptop and phone and literally have a call with a client on one side of the world and my assistants in the Philippines, and making sure everything was running smooth.
Wow.
But it was really during that time that I kind of really started to understand the nuances of business, and part of that was really working with my partner, Davin Michaels, who's been a kind of career entrepreneur since age 15, who's kind of took me under his wings a little bit and showed me some of the key things about business. I think we also often get sold on the concept of passion and finding a purpose, and sometimes we've got to get back to some basics, which is the purpose of a business is to make profits, first and foremost. And what are the key elements to do that?
Right.
And having the discipline and the work ethic to do that. But also, people talk about working smart, but that's great. I think when you start a business, you've got to be prepared to work hard too.
Sure. DeBorah, you wouldn't know anything about that. Smart or hard?
This podcast wouldn't be here. Again, I tell you, every week, it's because of me. That's so very true. Well, one of the things that you said is and we talk about business, we talk about mindset, we talk about a plethora of different things within the business world on the show. And you had mentioned that you had to leave the country and that you and your family turned it into a vacation versus a woe is me. I mean, that's a powerful statement that you guys had to leave the country, but you turned it into something for your family. And I've met your family. They are amazing. Your daughter and your wife, they are amazing. So let me ask you this. Because for most people who run into that situation, they're like, well, you know, all is over. I mean, how did you get past the mindset that said, you know, we're basically kind of being kicked out of the country right now?
So two things were going on. One is we were in 2009, I had a really low point in life. Several things I had attempted to do never worked out. We'd kind of gone close to broke. In 2009, I had in February 2009, I had a low point. That low point was, would my $1 million life insurance policy be the only way I can leave a legacy for my kids?
Wow.
Now, I'm not saying I would have, but I'm saying I started to think about it. And sometimes I realize that we do take these knocks in life where we question a lot. And so I call it the dark moment of the soul, you know. And I think a lot of people kind of have those moments. But anyway, I'd done enough personal development work where I kind of clawed my way back out of that state and back into the going to seminars and kind of rebuilding myself. Later that year in 2009, I made a decision of what do I do next in my life. You know, so I kind of got out the lowest point, but now it's like I need to reinvent myself. So financially, we were at the very low end of life. I had to borrow money from friends to kind of pay rent and buy food even early that year. And but you know, you rebuild. And one of the things I learned there is the power of asking. A lot of times we get ourselves into these challenges because we simply don't reach out to the people we know and ask the right questions. You know,
Right.
I lost a home back in 2003 because because of pride. I didn't want to reach out to people and say, hey, I'm about to lose my home. What can I do? Knowing what I know now, I know I could have saved the home. You know,
Right.
I would still have to move out, but I probably could have saved the home. And so one of the things in business is that power of simply asking people in your network, hey, here's my situation, I'm stuck. A lot of people, and I can, you know, myself as an example, we sit in the statement, I can't do this, I don't know how. And we stay stuck in that. But simply
Yes.
turning that statement into a question, how do I do this? How could I save my home? How do I build a business, right? And I simplify it down, but that simple asking people can transform so much about the situation. So there we were in 2009, and I decided to reinvent myself. It's okay, what is it I can help do next in my life? And I happened to be asking some of my friends who are entrepreneurs, and they were all saying how overwhelmed they were, just too much to do. And I said, well, why don't I kind of get into the outsourcing business? And so I kind of went online and found 3 Filipino girls in the Philippines. And I said, hey, I have some clients, I may be able to give you some business. We worked out the compensation, and so that's how I got started. I started literally like with one girl. Her name was Mary, and I went to my next seminar. I designed all my business cards, put up a new website. I was super excited, and I went into the seminar room, and I was shaking hands. Hey, my name is Beejel. Good to meet you. I'm in the outsourcing business. You know, and my intention was to mine that whole room.
Right.
When I left that seminar, I
It was yours.
I was gonna have
Absolutely.
100 new clients.
Right.
And then we sit down. I'm beaming with like I'm back in the game. I'm back on top. I've got my business cards, and this is actually an event here in Vegas.
Okay.
And the host of the event kind of gets up and he does his introduction and he goes, well, I want to introduce my first guest on stage. And Davin Michaels, he's been an entrepreneur since the age of 15. He's been in the fashion business. He's been in the music business, gold and platinum recording artist. He's done this, he's done that. And now he's in the outsourcing business with 200 employees in the Philippines. And I look up and go, why me? Of all the topics in the world I could have picked, I picked this one. So my self-esteem started to kind of withdraw. I started shrinking back in the chair. You know, if the viewers watching this, is kind of like this moment where I kind of disappear right into the camera. And I kind of heard his story. He talked about how he had 200 employees in the Philippines and how they're helping with social media and customer support and lead generation and blah, blah. And as I listened to him, I said, you know, this guy obviously knows one or two things about running a business.
Right.
Something, yes.
It's not his first rodeo.
Right.
So, and he wasn't even the speaker. He was actually being interviewed. At this time, Davin was not a speaker. He was a business guy. And he was being interviewed by the host on at this event. So I went up to Davin after on the break and said, "Hey, Mr. Davin," I said, "I'm just getting started. I've got basically one actual virtual employee, and I've got another 2 or 3 coming on board. would you teach me a thing or two about how to get into the outsourcing business?
That power of asking.
The power of asking. The power of asking. Now, in hindsight, I mean, he wouldn't have had to help me. I mean, I was saying, I'm going to become a competitor of yours. Would you help me? It's basically what I was saying.
Right.
And he goes, sure. So he gave me his number and said, give me a call next week. So on Monday, I gave him a call. Now I'm thinking I've got his personal number here, but it's the number to his office line. And I left a message. He's not going to call me back, some hotshot CEO.
Right.
But he did call me back. We got talking, and I kind of, I think, vomited my enthusiasm on him and stuff. And he goes, how about you become an affiliate? Now, I didn't know back then
what an affiliate was.
So I was like, oh my God, I'm an affiliate. A few weeks later, he said, you know what? I think I'm going to kind of bump you up to a master affiliate and put some affiliates below you so you can. So I was like, okay,
nice.
I'm a master affiliate. In 4 weeks. I'm on the uprise here. And about literally 6 weeks later, he said, look, how about this? Why don't you come on board full time with 123? And we'll build this business together. So we both had a passion for speaking back then, although both of us were not really doing it professionally. So we'll build this business. And at that time, we had about 200 employees. So I said, you know what? I can either be the CEO of my company, and we were at that time doing about a revenue of about $0 per year. Okay. So we had a lot of potential.
Lot of nowhere but have to go.
Okay? Or I could let go of all the stuff I hate doing about business and start to work with Davin and say, okay, what can I learn from this guy here?
Right.
So I wanted to re-engineer his brain, his way of thinking. And so I did. And so circa in October 2010, I became a member of the team, and we started to build 123. So we started going to events, we started speaking at events, and a year later, I get a phone call from my immigration attorney. And he goes, I got some, and because once I joined 123, I had to reapply for my visa and move my visa to 123. I get a call from, it was June of 2010, and my immigration attorney said, I got some bad news for you. You have two choices. Choice number one is you can become illegal and hope that Obama changes the immigration laws and legalizes everybody. And I said, or choice number two, you'll have to leave the country. And he said, you have to leave by September.
Wow.
And I said, well, given those two choices, I don't think waiting around for Obama and to change the laws of the countries was the wiser option. So we decided to leave. Now, in that moment, first of all, it wasn't quite like that. First of all, when the call came in, it was more like, so
to see that face, you'll have to come to Facebook.
Right.
So it was and so my wife called up a couple of my friends, and they came over. And that evening, we were sitting there with a cup of tea in our hands, and one of my friends, mentor, advisors, he said, you guys have been dealing with this immigration stuff for quite a while. How about you just take a break? He said, why don't you just kind of travel for a bit? Now, at that time, we didn't have the funds to even afford to leave the country. We didn't actually know how we were going to do this, because we're just coming out of the low end. Things were just starting to work with 123. I was earning kind of commission based on the business I was bringing in. So it was building up slowly.
Sure.
And so the prospect of how we're going to do this, I was like, okay. But over that 30-minute cup of tea, we made the decision to do it. And my friend said, how about you guys go to India? Now, I'm of Indian origin. I've never lived in India. I've only been there on vacation. My wife's never been there. My kids don't go there. I haven't been there. And so, but we made a yes decision. We didn't know how, but we made a yes decision. On the 4th of July, we dropped, my brother-in-law had come with his wife and his kids, and we dropped them at the airport. By the time I got home from the airport, my wife had started putting all the stuff we were going to sell in boxes. It was one of those moments of, oh my God.
This is real.
This is real. We're going to do this.
This is happening.
She didn't even give us the 4th of July to get this stuff. She was pulling stuff out of the closets, and I was shocked by how much stuff we had. We had a ton of stuff. And over the next several weeks, we started to sell stuff on Craigslist, on doing garage sales. We even had an auction at our local kind of community center there. And we slowly started to sell all our stuff. And as we start to sell our stuff, first there's that pain of letting go. This is all stuff we had bought.
Everything is important.
Everything's important, right? We spent money on all this stuff. But as we let go, it opened up this sense of freedom and flow in our lives.
Yes.
Hard to explain, but the less we had, the happier we started to become.
Right.
We started to simplify our life down to the point where we literally had a few boxes of our memorable items. So the way we did this was I gave everyone in the family one of those Staples foldable boxes where you unfold it and kind of, it's okay, this is your box. Anything that you want to keep that's memorable, personal, that you don't want to get rid of, you put in these boxes. So my kids filled it up like halfway. My wife had hardly anything. I had 2 boxes. See, I happen to have a lot of Star Wars toys.
Oh my gosh.
So this is like the invaluable stuff you can't be replaced. And so I justified having 2 boxes,
Right.
while other members of my family had half a box each.
Nice.
And so I utilized this. But literally, we had a few boxes. We had some of our photo albums. We were lucky enough to place them in a garage or a friend's garage. And then in September, we basically, as I said, we got dropped off at the airport and we left. We had a short stint in the UK with my family and off to India. And literally, one of the things I missed in this is that the moment I found out that we're going to have to leave, I had to make that phone call to Davin. I had to tell Davin,
Right.
that, hey buddy, I know we just started working together, but I have to leave the country. It's not a choice. Davin suggested I go to Costa Rica or something. I said, look, if we have to leave, I want to make the most of this. Look, this is we teach this stuff. We tell people that this is possible. You know, if you've read the 4-Hour Work Week, it kind of alludes to all these dreams of the laptop lifestyle.
Yes.
The reality is, very few people who write those books have ever actually done it.
Right.
They've never actually. Now, going on vacation is not the same thing.
Right.
You can't go on vacation and say you're living the laptop lifestyle.
Right. That's true.
So we said, okay, well, Davin said, hey, as long as you can perform your duties, we can make this work. So we left, we went to India, and literally for the first 6 months or so, we traveled from different state to state, and we had a fantastic time. But I'd make sure I'd allocate enough time to handle my duties for 1, 2, 3,
Right.
and plenty of times to enjoy the traveling as well.
Wow.
And then we ended up having a base there and in Bangalore, which is in the south part of India, where we'd kind of be there for several weeks, and then we'll go off and travel to Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, and other parts of the world, and we'd come back, stay there for a few more weeks, and we homeschooled our kids and managed 1 to 3. And the key thing is we did that for 5 years. And in those
Wow.
5 years, we grew from 200 employees to 500 employees.
That's incredible.
that is amazing. Yes.
And I realized, it was because we put in the right processes. So these are all the same virtual employees that we have our clients work with. Now, in that time frame, I understood that, if it wasn't for these VAs in the Philippines who were handling the day-to-day aspects of the business, we simply couldn't do it.
Right.
Davin was maybe running the business. He was out busy speaking at different events. But there's all the stuff that happens is the glue that binds all those key aspects together. And the VAs are that glue. They're the ones who basically make sure all those processes happen. And that allows us to kind of go speak and do things that we do while they handle the back end of the business. And they're the foundation. They're the foundation of our growth.
Now, okay, so you said something. Here's what I put. I just want to share with you what I put on Facebook. Discover how to effectively grow your business without worrying about the expense of growing your team. That's exactly what you just explained. So let's talk a little more about, the use of these, the VAs that you talk about, because
Right.
quite often there's this mindset that, it's not a good idea to use a VA. We can't grow our business with a VA. We've got to, either we've got to do it all ourselves, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, or we have to just wait. We're just going to put it off. And what I hear from you is saying that you were able to do this, live a laptop lifestyle, not just as a single man, but with a family.
Right.
And you continued to grow your business. And much of that was by the use of this amazing team that you guys have in, I think it's Philippines and India?
Our core team is in the Philippines.
Okay.
They're the ones that we typically assign to the clients that we work with. Then we do have a tech team in India. They do the websites. They build software for us and stuff as well. But they don't typically. They're not client facing. So
Gotcha.
they're our internal team. A few times when clients need that level of high level tech service, we do connect them. But generally speaking, it's the VAs in the Philippines. So there's 2 ways of looking at outsourcing. One is what I call projects, and one is processes.
Okay.
A lot of entrepreneurs are very familiar with projects such as websites, a book cover. So think Fiverr. Fiverr is a great example. If people out there who've used Fiverr, logo design, an article, write an article. Now, we have a kind of a mission statement, which is projects cost you money and processes make you money. So if the listeners can really dial this in, this is something to write down. When you get this will transform how you use a VA. Most people use VAs for outsourcing projects.
Right.
The challenge is, and they can range from $100, $5 to 50,000, depending on the level of complexity.
Right.
The challenge is that projects in itself doesn't make money for the business. It's what you do after the project is finished or completed. The other thing I see is too many entrepreneurs put too many projects in the way of what I call the profit line, which is the moment they can start making money, especially newbie entrepreneurs. They go to things and they spend so much time and money building websites and funnels and business cards and logos and everything else. And they never get to the point of actually asking for the business.
All right.
And they get stuck. And what happens is projects are much more comfortable for people because you get the sense of accomplishment. Oh, I wrote a chapter of my book. Oh, I got a book published. And there's a sense of completion, a sense of achievement. The challenge is they haven't made a penny by doing any of that. See, what comes next is the process. So let's take an author, for example.
Okay.
Right, they write a book. They spend a certain amount of money and time to write that book, and now all they can really do is post that the picture of themselves holding the book on Facebook.
Right.
They post it on, they upload it to Amazon and stuff.
Makes them feel good.
But it's the process of letting people know. It's that process of getting themselves booked onto maybe shows like this that's going to drive traffic to their book funnel.
Yes.
But processes, by definition, are boring, mundane, and repetitive.
Right.
And entrepreneurs rather have their teeth pulled than do something that's boring, mundane, and repetitive on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it doesn't serve our microwave society.
Exactly. Another group is, say, speakers. They invest tens of thousands of dollars learning how to speak on stage. And they write their signature talks and everything else. But every single speaker trainer I've talked to who teaches speaking has a module that says this is how you get more speaking opportunities. You do your research, you send emails, you respond, you follow up. Again, all of those things are boring, mundane, and repetitive.
Sure.
And so most speakers never do that part of their business. And yet it's that part of the business which is going to get them speaking opportunities, going to get them onto radio or podcasts like this, because they have to reach out. So the discipline of processes is so fundamental. And I didn't really get this until literally several months ago, the beginning of 2018.
Oh, wow.
and the way I understood this, because we were doing it, but we didn't know we were doing it.
Right.
And this is what happened. At the end of 2017, I asked the team a very key question, which is why do some clients quit after 30, 60 days? And why do some clients stay with us for 6 months, 2 years, or more?
Okay.
So to discover that answer, we did a deep dive. We basically looked at the past and current clients and literally found out what were they outsourcing to us. And everybody who was quitting after 1 or 2 months were outsourcing projects. And the people who were staying with us for longer periods of time were outsourcing processes. That's when the light bulb kind of went off. Because we ourselves, in the way we use our VAs in the Philippines, we don't use them really for projects. We don't use them for high-end websites or funnel designs. That's where a funnel consultant or a marketing expert is utilized. Mm-hmm. So understanding how to use VAs and how to use outsourcing, because even if someone is working with, say, a high-level marketing team, that's kind of outsourcing the marketing department to that company,
sure,
like yourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have a role. They have a role to build your strategy. They have a role to tell you, maybe build your funnel for you, write your sales copy. These are higher level professional tasks.
Right.
And as marketing gets more and more challenging, they need to turn to experts like you guys for that kind of support. Because, the algorithms make it so that you have to either be studying this stuff full time
yes,
to know how to stay ahead of the limitations of these platforms, right?
Right.
But once you've got all that stuff down, what are some of the other mundane, boring stuff that makes up the other fabric of the company, right? Once they've got the strategy from you, they've learned how to do this, they then have to then figure out how to do all this work. And that's where virtual assistants can come in as a bedrock of that, the boring, mundane, repetitive stuff, right? And so when I saw that in our data, my light bulb just kind of went off. So, oh my God, we don't use our VAs for projects. So why are we letting our clients use VAs for projects?
That's powerful.
Interesting.
For 9
Wow.
years, we never told the clients how to use our VAs.
Right.
We simply said you can use our VAs for a range of tasks, and in those range of tasks were projects. Website this, website that. But it was the ones who themselves identified that they were outsourcing processes were the ones who were staying with us for months on end. And
Interesting.
And that was my light bulb. That several months ago, then we made that decision to change our language, change our narrative, and say, look, who we are as a company is a business process outsourcing company. Right? That we want to take on your processes, not necessarily your projects. And that was a defining moment in the company.
Wow, that's incredible.
That is.
So there's two companies. There's the 123 employee, which is the one we've been discussing, but then there's also the Rapid Profit Mastery program. What's the
distinction?
What's the distinction between the two?
So the 123 employee, we focus on the processes.
Okay.
Right? Now, a lot of times I'll get on a consulting call with a client.
Okay.
And they'll give me a laundry list of companies that they run.
Okay.
I'm a best-selling author. I'm an internet marketer. I'm doing affiliate marketing. I'm doing internet marketing. I'm doing network marketing. And I say, wow, not only do we have to define what project to work on or what process to work on, I got to figure out which one of these businesses you need to be focused on.
Right.
So what it comes down to is far too many entrepreneurs are doing far too many things. In fact, one of the things that the distinction is 1, 2, 3. We basically give us your process, and we'll basically go and implement it for you.
Okay.
And within that, we also have a component of teaching them how to literally create a process line item by line item. But there's a precursor. The precursor is a lot of people get stuck in what I call project land, which is they've got this project they've got to accomplish. They haven't mapped out the steps to accomplish that. But more than that, what we're finding is that when someone is faced with a project and not getting things done, there's another level of, I don't use the word mindset, but stuckness in their project. And they don't often see where they're getting stuck in that project timeline.
Right.
So in the rapid profit makeover concept, what we do is the makeover is a one-day workshop that we run.
Okay.
That leads into the mastery program. So the makeover is to design them to help them step out of their business, look at it, and map out this project timeline. So the way we do that is first you define the process that you want to focus on. Which process is going to get you into profitability as quick as possible, right?
Right.
So what's the least number of steps required? Then we look at what projects may need to be accomplished to achieve that, right?
Right.
And again, in the software world, they'll use the term MVP, minimal viable product, right? Which is before you go spend $100,000 building something, what can you do to test to see if it's right for you and right for the market?
Right.
So a lot of people go to seminars, they hear people speak on stage, buy my product this, buy my program this. They spend thousands of dollars with all these programs, and it becomes, potential sitting on their hard drive or their bookshelf.
Right.
Right, of course.
Because none of them really have mapped out what is the requirement of that to build that business.
Sure.
So in that program, we basically we map out the key steps involved with getting them to profitability, and then we hold them accountable to getting stuff done. So really, it's an accountability program to get them to get all that stuff done. So then they're ready to actually start to outsource the process.
So it gets them past that busy work and into the productive state.
Exactly.
Like I could hire you guys out to determine what little value Stormie adds to my life, and we could get rid of him that way, right?
Right.
That's right.
See,
Yeah.
okay, there you go. See,
Yeah.
There could be
All right.
someone. There could be a different person sitting here next week.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. So one's really, again, it's an accountability program to keep the business owner on track, and the other one is where they can outsource their process to VAs in the Philippines and have them run those processes.
That's awesome.
That is great. So let's talk about that. Let's say if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm in my car right now and I'm listening to this podcast, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. I would like to get started with a VA. But how do I do it? What do I do next?
Well,
what should they do? What would you recommend?
Before you start with a VA, we want to look at your processes.
Okay.
So we want to either look at the processes you've created, or just have a discussion with you about what processes are going to be required. So there's a 5-step methodology. So the first step is to define the many processes that make up your business. The challenge is most of those processes reside in the head.
Right.
They're not.
Yes.
They're not written down.
And then, like,
right?
how do I get them out of the head?
So first step is to define what all those processes are. So just the name of the process. Example. There's a process for post networking. So you go to a networking event. What's the process you have to utilize those business cards, to leverage those business cards as new connections? I can talk to 100 entrepreneurs and realize that less than 10% will have a process mapped out for just that.
Sure.
Exactly.
The next step is, once we define all the processes, we've got to decide which one to focus on, which one or two to focus on. Then we can start to document what that process looks like, literally like line item by line item. So anyone who's ever done computer programming will know how to, when you write a software code, you're telling the computer or the hardware what to do.
Right.
Similarly, when we write a process document, it's literally line item by line item.
Okay.
A simple example is you can walk into a hamburger joint and watch the process of how they build a hamburger, right? So somewhere
Absolutely.
there's a training manual that says first you put the bun, the patty, the cheese, the lettuce, a squirt of ketchup, squirt of mayo, squirt of mustard, close the bun, put in box, take to the rack, let it slide down the rack, right? Mm-hmm. That's the one process. It's documented, defined. You can take pretty much anybody and teach them how to run that process very easily.
Sure.
Right? There's another process for how to get the hamburger from the rack to the customer. What do you say? What do you do? Right? So big businesses know this very well. In fact, they have entire teams that all they do is write and manage processes. Smaller companies don't do that.
Right.
They don't give themselves the time to document it because they just think it's all in the head. If it's all in your head, you can't delegate it effectively. If it's all in your head, you can't optimize it. You can't optimize a process that you don't see clearly.
Right.
So document it is very easy.
Now, is that just a really quick question here, because I know a lot of people, as you're sitting listening to this, you're thinking, if you're running that smaller business, well, I don't have the time, that's why I can't do it. So they're justifying it with the time.
Yeah.
How do you get past that obstacle?
You create that time. You have to you block off some time, and that's why we run the workshop, because I know, so I can sit and teach someone how to write a process, but they won't do it.
Exactly, they won't. That's my point.
So we run some workshops and invite people to either join us live or online, where we say block off the time, and it's not a teaching workshop. I mean, although we teach, but it's really a time to write processes.
Okay.
Give yourself that gift of writing the processes down. That makes it so much easier to then outsource that process to a VA. The other part is that when the process breaks down, when you have it documented, you can track it back to a line or a subline in the process document. So, oh, this is why it's not working.
Interesting.
I never defined for the VA how to take the data from here and put it into here clearly, right? So now you can fix the process or optimize the process. As softwares change, some parts of the processes can be automated. Mm-hmm. As AI gets more and more user friendly, we can say, okay, I don't need the VA to do this part. I can move some AI into this or technology. But if you don't see the process, it's hard to know how to optimize the process.
You said something.
For those who don't know, AI is the artificial intelligence.
Thank you.
Yes.
Right. Because we do have people that they're like, what? Go ahead, Stormie.
But something you said is pretty interesting. I know many entrepreneurs that have gone down the path of hiring a VA, and some of their feedback has been, this VA stuff doesn't work. It doesn't work. I had a horrible experience using this VA, and I think you just nailed it. And let me know if my observation of what you just shared with our audience, if I'm on check here. My bet is many of these entrepreneurs have hired VAs. Their process is in their head. They do an inadequate job of sharing whatever that process may be to the VA. They just expect the VA to be able to execute and do it. The VA starts doing their thing to the best of their ability, and they may even be better than the business owner, but they've received no instruction. So they're just doing things the way they think things should be done because they have that lack of instruction. And then for some reason things go wrong. They don't know why it goes wrong. And now the business owner has this perception that this VA stuff doesn't work. And it's not the fact that it doesn't work. It's the fact that the process hasn't been clearly defined. Is that a fair statement? Is that something that...
Yeah, let's dive a little bit into that because I take a lot of those calls.
Okay.
Absolutely. My VA thing doesn't work. And that's not quite the language that they use, but that's what they, you know. And so the first question I asked them is, send me your process. It's a kind of one of those questions where you don't expect a response kind of question. And I ask it very specifically. And most of them never reply to that. They just stay in the space of, it doesn't work, the VA sucks, the VA doesn't know what they're doing, whatever.
Right.
And the ones who do, is their instructions will be, and this is not an exaggeration, it's, you know, do my social media.
Okay.
We've had those kind of responses, right? And anyone who's done social media knows that that makes no sense whatsoever.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
None.
Absolutely none.
Even if they break it down to manage my Facebook or manage my LinkedIn, there are 100 steps I can map out in either of those two platforms that somebody could be doing to optimize those platforms.
Sure.
Right. So step one is that you're right. And again, you know, when you're in it, you don't necessarily see it. It's until I stepped out of my own business and asked the question, why is 90% of the people struggling with this stuff?
Right.
We have our VAs literally helping us run a multi-million-dollar business, and these folks can't use a VA for doing a simple task. It's because they didn't have it documented. They didn't have these processes documented. Hence, the VA was interpreting email instructions or quick Skype instructions or whatever it may be. Right, and remember, the VAs are good at what they're doing. They're good at processes. They shouldn't be used to try and run a business.
Right.
And the number of times I've seen, people literally try and outsource their whole business to a VA in the Philippines. Right now, people listen, going, "Well, that's ridiculous. That why would somebody do that?" I'm telling you.
That's a powerful statement because you're so right.
I see
you are so
I
very
see
right.
it every single day, and then it's literally. I wish this was an exaggeration. I see it where people try to outsource their business to a virtual assistant in the Philippines, and then when they're not making their $10,000 per month, they get upset.
Right.
And that's it. So when it is broken down into a process, it's so much easier to then work with the VA. Things are smooth, the results come, because now you can start measuring KPIs.
Absolutely.
Okay? And the other part is that I say, hey, when you design a process, do it yourself. Run your process, right? I'm not saying you have to run it for weeks on end. Just at least run it for a day and see how you can optimize your process before you give it out to somebody.
Absolutely.
So this comes back to some fundamentals, and again, it's like a little bit of discipline. There's a little bit of discipline lacking in the entrepreneurial culture in doing some of this stuff. We'd rather go to another networking event or go to another workshop, because it gives a sense of accomplishment. Mm-hmm. But it's the stuff that you are prepared to do behind the scenes when you get back to your office. What are those processes that you are willing to invest in yourself, and then say, okay, now I've got it dialed in. Now I can give it to somebody else. Right.
And that few minutes makes all the difference in the end result.
Literally, DeBorah, if you can give yourselves 2 or 3 days, a weekend, okay, maybe turn off TV for a few hours in the evening.
Oh no!
Oh no! Oh my God,
not the TV.
And or get off of Facebook. We all, we use the fact, I don't have enough time to write a process.
Of course,
it's nonsense. Right? It's what's important. Is it important to have an optimized business, or is it important that you watch the TV? Mm-hmm. And I'm not one of those big guys who says, never watch news, never watch TV, whatever. No, we enjoy our shows, but sometimes you got to get disciplined. You got to say, you know what, this part of my business is not working right now, and I need to fix it. And giving yourself that time, anywhere from half a day to 2 or 3 days, just to write down the processes. Now, here's the thing: you don't need to turn your entire business into a process overnight. Pick 1 or 2 that's essential for where you're at right now. Right. For a lot of people, literally, if they're going to say a BNI or going to networking events, start with those processes. I guarantee you, if people have been going to networking events, have collected enough business cards that are probably valued over $1 million worth of business in those cards if they were properly data mined.
Right.
Yes.
Which is, you go and meet, let's say you meet 20 people, and then we get back home and maybe we send them a, hey, nice meeting you. But you can't follow up people one time these days.
Sure.
You gotta be consistent. You gotta, go back to them after 3 or 4 days. Hey, DeBorah, I didn't hear back from you. Are you getting my message? Hey, DeBorah, it's this third time I'm trying to reach out to you. People are afraid of bothering people, but we're bombarded by messages.
Right.
Now to check a message, you got to check. Like my daughter, I send her a message on email, then I have to jump onto Facebook and send her a message on Facebook. Then I go on Instagram and put a photo. Hey, Shivani, check Facebook because I left a message there to check email. Right?
To check Facebook. That's a good one.
So it's the world we're living in. So
Right.
just simply thinking, hey, you reach out one time and expect someone to respond, and then you get pissed off when people don't. That's not the world. It's your responsibility to make sure that you have the process in place to make sure that you're doing an adequate job of following up, getting people on a call, understanding how can I help you, how can you help me, is there room for collaboration, is there room for referring business, and that's how you grow the business. All of that I just said is a process.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
that process alone, that simple process for people who generally build a lot of business through networking meetings, could literally transform their entire business right there.
Wow, that's incredible.
That really is. And here's the funny part. As I'm sitting here, it's like, the thing where they say you're stepping on my toes. I'm like going, ouch, 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 ouch. Because I am so guilty of everything that you said that I did wrong. Because I've used not only your service, but I've used, VAs in the past. And I can say I've gotten good results. But as you're laying this out, I'm like, oh man, I could have gotten so much better results.
Absolutely.
Had I. And the funny thing is one of the individuals that I worked with from 123 tried to get me to lay out those processes, and I was like, I don't have time for all of that. I just want you to do it. And I'm a social media strategist. I still didn't. I tell people to do that, but I myself did not do what you said. And as you're saying it, I could see how it would have been so much more effective had I just done those simple steps, like you said, carved out a little time that I don't have to keep carved out, but just for a moment that I had done that. And the second thing that I want to point out is, you remember you told the story at the beginning about Davin Michaels being on stage? So I have to tell you this. As I was watching you guys on stage and you came out and you did this ship thing, with the pirate, the pirate. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching this and I'm like going down in my seat more and I'm like, oh God, is this the stuff I have to know how to do? Now I speak and I train, but at that time, this was several years ago, and I was like, oh my God, they're so good. I'm never going to be able to do this. So I just wanted to let you know, just like you were doing at that time, now there's people in your audience doing it back to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Fortunately, I took that as an opportunity to, okay, I'm going to take some of that stuff. I borrowed some, just so you know.
That's cool.
Yeah, just so you know.
One way to kind of start to really start stepping into this is if you ever walk into a franchise. The reason it's a franchise is because they've mapped it out for you. When you invest in a franchise, you're basically buying a playbook of how to run that business. Every aspect of the business is mapped out. They wouldn't really be able to sell it as a franchise if it wasn't. So larger businesses have this dialed in. They know that without processes, they can't even operate.
Right.
Yes.
So they have processes for hiring people, for firing people, for promoting people, for doing evaluations. Everything is mapped out. This is how you do it. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs don't think of themselves as well, maybe they think of themselves as business owners, but they don't know what that really means in terms of their responsibility as business owners.
Sure.
Yes.
Right? And I think as business owners, we have to step back and say, okay, what have we been sold by the industry? Right? Because a lot of times, a lot of focus on the mindset and stuff. And the good thing about processes is it takes some of the weight of the mindset off you, because a process, when you break it down, every step of a process, it seems so simple.
Right.
And when something seems simple, you're more likely to do it.
Sure.
Right. But when you have this big, I got to build this big business, it seems like a mountain to climb. But you chunk it down into, okay, first we got to get to this step, base camp, and then you get to the next stage, it seems a lot more doable than just looking at this huge mountain and say, okay, I got to get to the top of that mountain.
So what is that saying? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
Something like that, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that's great. I mean, this is some incredible stuff that you're sharing with our audience, and the importance of processes. I mean, whatever you do, having that process in place before you hire a VA or before you do anything else.
Yep.
And I think it's incredible the fact that you have a program that gets people set up for success prior to doing business with the other side of your company. So for entrepreneurs that are listening out there, how do they find the Rapid Profit System? What would be their next step? If they really like what you had to say and they wanted to get involved with you, what do they do? Kind of share with us.
So there's we start with a free workshop.
Okay.
And that free workshop, we take them through a 5-step process. The first step is basically to really review what they've been doing. This is what I call shaking the tree.
Okay.
Right? It's like a oh my, I'm not really doing this well. And I do this because I want to raise a level of awareness about how they operate currently.
Right.
Because you can't change something that you're not aware of, right?
True, yes.
So you got to become first aware of the nuts and bolts of what are you actually doing in your business.
Sure.
The second stage is what I call align, and that's aligning your key objectives. So what are your aligning and prioritizing key objectives in your business? And I think sometimes we just chase too many targets, too many rabbits at the same time.
Right.
Then we get into the planning stage. And the planning that's where we plan out the processes and we plan out the projects. So we basically teach people how to map this out, how to map out your process and your projects. Then we look to identify where in that planning you may have a future challenge with. Let me give you an example. A lot of people have been thinking about writing a book for many years.
Right.
Maybe they've even started writing a book, right?
Right.
And they haven't got it done yet. And so we can look back at the plan. A lot of times people will put this stuff in their plan, to write my book, or to do a YouTube video, or to do a Facebook Live, all these things that they should be doing.
Sure.
And then we say, when you look at these steps in your plan, where do you see resistance showing up? Where do you feel any sense of anxiety or resistance showing up in your own plan? Now we can look at the mindset. Right, because if we go to a mindset seminar and work on all this mindset and come back and nothing seems to have changed,
right?
Quite often because we're not addressing the right thing in their life or in their business. So now if they say, oh, you know what, I have a hard time writing, now you can get very specific in what kind of training or help you need with that. If they have a hard time, say, we're mapping out the funnel, let's say that they have to design a funnel. I don't know how. Now they can come to experts like yourselves and say, this is where you go for help.
Right.
This is where you go for this help.
Right.
Versus, I'm doing a webinar. Wait a second, you haven't even decided what product you're gonna sell. Why are you investing in a webinar software, which by the time you get to it may have changed.
Right.
Right. And that's what's going on.
And where are they going from the webinar?
Sure.
Exactly. So
what's their
so
trail?
people jump into it. They spend a lot of time, money, and effort doing all this stuff. So no, wait, hold back. Let's plan this out. Let's just kind of see where this takes you. And let's look at the destination, because is this actually where you want to go?
Right.
Because a lot of times people see a speaker on stage and think, oh, this is glamorous. I want to be a speaker. Not realizing that some of the speakers, they're on the road 40 weeks of the year, if not more. Mm-hmm. Is that the lifestyle that matches you right now? So we've got to start doing some future forecasting. Then we do basically what I call drive. Drive is the accountability part. So holding them accountable or getting stuff done. So they come through there first. That's where we're going to teach them more of the fundamentals. And then the ones who are ready, we then say, now you're ready to start working with the virtual employee. And then we help them build, then we help them map out their processes in much more detail, so that when they do work with the VA, we increase the chance of success.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
So for those that are excited and they want to get involved with you, what do they do? Where do they go? What's the website?
Well, I'm going to give out 2 websites.
Okay.
So if you're someone who's, say, more just starting out, or someone who feels that they're chasing too many rabbits right now, just too many things, then I want you to go to www.rapidprofitmakeover.com.
Okay.
Every month we do a free workshop where we kind of lay out the foundation. We teach you this 5-step process of how to go through, how to kind of map out what you should be doing and how to stay accountable for that. Okay?
So it's an online workshop.
It's both. We do a small work. We have a small audience live in Henderson.
Okay.
But really, you can join us online and join us. So we have breakout rooms. It's great. So it's an immersive. We teach everybody this 5-step process and get them to actually map out. We actually get sticky notes and we map out the steps that they got to perform, get done. And then, but people who are more ready to say they get into outsourcing, that they want to outsource their process, or they want to get more help specifically with a process to outsource, they can go to processforprofits.com. Processforprofits.com.
Okay.
There I start with a quick overview of what I kind of shared here in terms of the 5 steps of how to design that process.
Right.
And and tell them exactly what they're going to need to have before they start working with the virtual employee.
That's awesome. I tell you what, I believe I'm going to attend that free live workshop.
So am I.
That's
yes.
going to be great.
You're going to have us at
I just don't want to go the
website.
same time she's going. I spend too much time with her already.
They're not going to let you in anyways. And, I have to deal with Stormie so often here.
Hey, I'm going to outsource my job right here.
Please outsource
Yep.
it. Please do.
I'm going to give them the process, sit here, throw barbs at DeBorah, and then life is good.
There you go. Make life better. So I'm always stressed out by this man. So and we have something called the disruptor. Mm-hmm. This is called Bizruptions, which is business disruptions. Things that always come in. The torpedoes are always coming. So one of the questions that I always ask is, what are some of the disruptors that you have within your life that allows you to keep pushing through? And I know you have a morning ritual. You have a gift. You call it a gift.
It's cool.
Tell us. I just wanted you to share a little bit about that.
It came out of our travels. So when we were traveling, when we left the U.S., we said, okay, we've been through a challenging time, but we're going to make this dramatic shift in our life. So let's go in the spirit of gratitude and forgiveness and impact, with people we meet in the world. We didn't know who we were going to meet. We didn't know where we were going to live. We just knew that we were leaving the U.S. So we basically adapted some very key things we did in our life. So gratitude was one of them. Setting an intention for the day. Forgiveness, forgiving yourself. I don't think we forgive ourselves enough as part of our life.
Right.
Yes.
But also forgive other people. Maybe you had a conversation with yesterday, and you felt a little bit kind of angst by that conversation. Transform. What about ourselves? Do we need to transform to be that better version of ourselves?
That's a
Maybe
great question.
more peaceful. What are maybe for you? Then envision, how might that day look if you actually envision that day unfolding? And finally, detachment. So the big thing for us was when we sold everything, the power of letting go was a big thing. So every day we kind of start our day with we call it a gifted way meditation. And that's how we basically, and we didn't have it formalized as a process back then. We were just doing it.
Right.
But that's literally the spirit in how we traveled, and I believe it's carrying that spirit, that essence of that what I just shared, that made the 5 years so incredible, so wonderful.
Wow.
Well, that's awesome.
But it's also the way we start my day. So sometimes it's just after working out in the gym or in the sauna, I just could spend a few minutes. It's kind of okay. This is how I want my day to unfold.
Nice.
I'll tell you what. This was an incredible episode. I can't believe an hour
Yes.
has already gone by. Is that amazing? It felt like we've been here for 10 minutes.
I know.
Because I can just listen to you all day, and I'm sure our audience
That's fun.
picked up some great, valuable tips and feedback there. What do you think, DeBorah? Were you able to comprehend?
I was able to follow along with my second grade education,
See,
Stormie.
so then that's perfect.
I think he elevated me to the third grade because I'm going to create some processes that'll get me out of elementary school, okay?
Absolutely. So, listen, for those of you that are watching this on Facebook Live, remember, you can go on over to the iTunes store or wherever you get your podcast, and you can subscribe. As a matter of fact, not only you can, I'm suggesting that you do subscribe to the Bizruptions podcast. This way you can come back to this particular episode over and over again, because I'm sure every time you listen to it, you're going to get more value out of it. In addition to that, we've got lots of great guests that have been on the Bizruptions show. So be sure to subscribe to Bizruptions, rate and review this particular show, because this is certainly 5 stars. DeBorah, you have anything else to add before we sign off for the day?
No, I just want to thank you so much for being with us today, Beejel, and sharing such valuable information.
No, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. We loved it. Thank you so much. And if you have a topic or an individual that you would like for us to interview and to share their phenomenal information, please don't hesitate to let us know. Thanks so much. And we will see you on our next Bizruptions episode.
Absolutely. We'll
Thanks
see you
so much.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.